This podcast is part of the Game and Entertainment Network. Visit tgenetwork.net to find the latest episodes from all our shows.
All right, welcome to Couch Potatoes, episode number 70. I'm your host, Islaine, and we're doing something a little bit different this week. I hijacked the show to talk about one of my favorite games of all time, which I'm sure you all know is League of Legends. I know I've talked about it plenty in the past, but we've never dedicated a whole show to the subject, and so this week we're doing just that. Ari isn't a big-time MOBA player, so she decided to sit this one out. I also didn't want to listen to her troll us for the hour, so I do have a few guests, though, who are fellow bloggers and League players, so we're going to talk about the newest changes to the game that's coming in preseason for Season 6. So, real quick introductions. We have Tough Love Critic.
Hi there, Tough Love Critic, nay D. Emery Bunn. Best known, if you do know me, for the blog of the same title, which at current has been focused on Guild Wars 2 games critique, but I'm looking to expand in the near future.
Sweet. We also have Out of Beta.
Hello. As you said, I'm Out of Beta, best known for that, and a lot of snark on Twitter.
And finally, Rambling Redshirt.
Hello. Rambling Redshirt. Run the blog Beyond Townhauser Gate, and just kind of talk about all kinds of games and fantasy football, which I'm not doing that great at now. But MMOs, games, MOBAs, whatever.
Cool. So before we get into the League discussion, it's tradition here on the show to first break the ice by talking about whatever games you've been playing lately. So, yeah, but we'll just go in the same order. Tough Love Critic, what have you been playing recently?
Been playing all over the range. I binged StarCraft II Legacy of the Void last week. If you like RTS at all, that was a lot of fun missions, and that story is good. I play Guild Wars 2 and WildStar as my alternate MMOs, and depending on mood, I'll play League of Legends or Heroes of the Storm. Do I want to try hard, or do I want to just not use my brain? Interestingly, I have actually avoided Fallout 4 because I'm just not that interested in it.
I have heard the same from a few people, but yeah, the vast majority of bloggers that I follow have all been playing that pretty religiously, myself included. So StarCraft 2, that I have the first two. I haven't gotten the new one yet, but you said, is it comparable story-wise, or is it better?
I would actually say, depending on how much you like Kerrigan, I would say it's an improvement over Heart of the Swarm, and it's definitely better than Wings of Liberty because all those big themes that Wings of Liberty kind of ignored are center focus, and there's plenty of plot twists and lots of they actually did that. Something major happens to them very early in the story. I did not expect it. Let's put it that way. Interesting.
I definitely want to check that out. It's on my to-do list for some point in time. I'm just stuck on Fallout. Out of Beta, what have you been playing?
Lately, it's been a lot of Hearthstone, Heroes of the Storm, and a little bit of ARAM. Also doing sort of Final Fantasy XIV is my sort of kill time MMO.
Yeah, I played Final Fantasy XIV for a little while, but it was admittedly only a trial. I liked what I saw, but I've just been so not into MMOs for the last few years that I have all of them, pretty much. And can play most of them because they're either buy-to-play or free-to-play. Can play them whenever I want, and most of the time I'm just like, meh, I'd rather play something else.
Yeah, that's kind of where I was at. And I am flat-out bored of WoW, so...
That's not saying very much these days. WoW's kind of lost all flavor.
Yeah. I like it because it gives me a lot of things to do. That's one of the nice things about Final Fantasy, because there's just a billion jobs, and you can level all of them, and you're kind of encouraged to. So, plenty to keep me busy.
That's true.
Suddenly I get this ridiculous meme of level all the things.
Yeah, that's kind of what it's like.
Rambling Redshirt, what have you been up to?
I've been kind of juggling things around. Been playing a little bit of Worm Online, just kind of maintaining my deed and trying to do my farming simulator there. Playing a little Civ 5, just a few turns here and there, trying to get some experience in that. Bought and haven't tried out Fallout 4, though. Like you said, everybody seems to be doing it, and I tend to avoid what everybody tends to be doing. So
I usually do too, just because I usually don't get games on day one, The only reason I got that on day one is because my birthday was like a few days after it released, so it was an early birthday present. That's the only reason I have it on day one. So otherwise, I'd be with you.
Yeah. I just I'll let all the bugs get worked out and see what people have to say about it. Then I'll give it a shot. So it's sitting on my shelf right now. And then I also bought what is it, Arc off of Steam a couple weeks ago, but for the life of me, I can't get to connect to the servers online. I've got ESET Security Suite, and for some reason, the firewall does not want to play nice with it.
I have that one too. I got it fairly close to release. I like it. It has a lot of potential there, but because it's early access, typically when I get an early access game, I'll play it a little bit to check it out and then just shelve it until it's either done or closer to done, or when they reveal some big patch that's got a lot of new stuff in it. The one thing I noticed about that I didn't like, at least closer to release, was that it was really not very optimized. It didn't seem like it ran as smooth as it should for me, but
Right.
I don't. It doesn't seem like many people are having that problem, because I see people talking about that one all the time.
Yeah, my cousin plays it all the time, and I was trying to hook up with him, but yeah, I cannot get the networking to work with my firewall right now. So I'm actually looking to install it on my second computer, where I've got a different security suite, and hopefully that'll let me connect. And then I also played a little bit of Dota 2, trying to expand my MOBA frontiers.
Yeah, it sounds like everybody's done that.
I actually tried that a few months ago, and I just cannot. It's too slow paced for me.
It's very slow paced, yeah.
I don't like being methodical. I like pretty much attacking the issue and letting quick thinking, in addition to strategy, decide it. But Dota, as best I can tell, is your quick thinking is only going to do so much.
Yeah, I felt that it was a little slower paced too. I wasn't really too fond of it. I also don't care for Heroes of the Storm, but it seems to be semi-popular.
One thing I've noticed about the new League 5.22 setup is it seems to be a little bit closer to what I experienced with Dota, especially in mana. It seems like with the removal of mana potions and such, things have slowed down a little bit, at least on some of the champions I've played.
Well, well, let's not get into that. We'll be talking about that in a little bit.
Sure.
As far as me, like I said, Fallout 4 has pretty much consumed most of my time. I think I have close to 30 hours in it, and it's been out for, what, a week?
So is Dogmeat your bros for life?
No. I kept him for a little while, and then eventually met one of the other factions, got another follower. I used him, and it was funny because they've added in some romancing kind of options that I'm not sure if the other Fallouts had, because I didn't beat either of the previous two incarnations.
Fallout 3 did not really have a romance.
Did they do that in New Vegas?
I started New Vegas, and it was so similar to Fallout 3 that I could not play past 15 minutes. It was like, oh, I'm just doing this over again. The HUD is orange instead. I just couldn't get into it.
I liked New Vegas a little bit better, but the only reason was because when I first got Fallout 3, I was expecting it to be a little more run and gun than it was, more like Fallout 4 is. Basically, if they would have made if Fallout 3 would have the same combat Fallout 4 does, I probably would have played the shit out of it. But because it was a little wonky and not as good, I just couldn't get into it. I bought the Game of the Year edition, so it was way after the fact anyway. And then I ended up playing for like maybe 10, 15 hours and just said, not into it. But at the same time, I was playing Borderlands, so you can see where like my love for the first-person shooter combat was easier just to go play Borderlands than it was to play Fallout. With New Vegas, I'd never played it because I just assumed it was going to be more of the same. I was kind of assuming the same thing about Fallout 4, but I just had this inkling that maybe it would be better, and ended up being pleasantly better as far as the combat goes. It's so much smoother, so much better, but we dedicated a whole show to that last week, so I'm not even going to bother talking about it anymore. Otherwise, I've been playing League, but I have only been playing ARAMs because I'm waiting for some of the other features of the Season 6 patch to come out before I really get into that. And the other MOBA that I play all the time is Awesomenauts, which I think is it's different enough, but similar enough that it's rather enjoyable. But
I'll be frankly honest, I've never really heard of it.
you can get it on Steam. It's actually relatively inexpensive. I think it's like $18 for the game plus the expansion pack.
But it's not quite free, and right now my money is very, very low.
No, it's not free. It is buy to play. I bought it, actually, it released on PS3 and Xbox 360 like 3 years ago, I think. So I got it when it first came out there because I was already playing League, and I was still in that exploratory, let's try all the MOBAs phase. So it was just like, hey, it's a MOBA on the console, cool. And then eventually they put it out on Steam, and then since then basically said fuck the console versions and just started updating through Steam. They did a Kickstarter for the expansion, added in a bunch of characters, yada yada. So eventually they ended up re-releasing it on PS4 and I think Xbox One as well. And it was just, they retitled it something else and basically added in everything that was in the game on Steam up to that point for the consoles. Then after that, they're supposedly patching that one and keeping it, more close to the Steam version, which I thought was kind of a dumb thing on their end anyway. Like, why would you forsake the consoles that you started on? Like, that's just kind of dumb. But
business decisions don't necessarily need to make sense.
they rarely do. So it's just a 2D platformer that plays like a MOBA. I mean, you usually have 2 lanes. Instead of 3, you have 2, and then there's towers, and then there'll be farther back towers, and then you have a base. Obviously, the goal is to destroy your opposing team's base. It's 3-on-3. There's I think something like 20-ish characters now. They all have their own little kits. Basically, it's just like if you're using a PlayStation controller, X is jump, square is your basic attack, and then triangle and circle are your 2 other attacks, your special abilities. So it's limited, but then instead of using items, they use builds, kind of more like HOTS does, in that you have like your row of abilities that you can buy for your one ability, and then another row of things to tweak the other ability, and then another row of things to tweak your basic attack. And then from there, you can only buy 3 per row, and I think there's like 5 or 6 options in each row. So you can kind of customize dependent on the map. Like, if you need more defense, you can build health stuff or whatever. And so it's got some of the intricacies of a MOBA that you're used to, but instead of click to move and being a little more technical, it's just platforming. I don't know. It's different enough to be different and the same enough to be enjoyable.
I can respect that.
So yeah, that's what I've been doing this week. So, Season 6 of League of Legends is in full swing. The preseason started just a few days ago, and there have already been sweeping changes to the game. Honestly, I would say scratch that. The entire game is different, but I personally think it's for the better. There are several different systems and things that have been tweaked and updated for this new patch, 5.22. And some of the bits that we're going to end up talking about haven't quite released yet, but are scheduled to release during this patch cycle. So more on that in a little bit. First, I think one of the biggest sweeping changes that has come through during the patch was the overhaul of the mastery system. What do you guys think? Do you think that the masteries have changed for the better, or do you think that they are kind of more of the same? I mean, anyone have any specific thoughts on the masteries overall?
I'd say I like the idea of the masteries. For one, they're simpler. Rather than just a random hodgepodge of whatever, you definitely get a clear sense. And the exclusion element of it, this or that, not both, and you still can drill down to the bottom. That's nice. I'd say the frustrating thing is that sometimes if you're going for a certain thing at the second level, the stuff on the first level may be completely useless to you.
Yes.
But you have to take it.
Yeah.
So it's lost some flexibility while gaining other different kinds of flexibility.
Okay, well, real quick, let's just look at the Keystone Masteries, which basically, whenever you're building a champion, you're going to shoot for one of the 9 masteries. There's 3 per tree, but you can only pick one. That's where you have to go a full 18 points down. but because of the limitation of having only 30 points overall, you obviously cannot pick 2 of the Keystone Masteries in any secondary tree, which means initially you're going to be looking at the full 18 points in one tree, and then looking at either a combination of points, it could be 6 and 6 in the other 2 trees, or a full 12, which will only get you to the like 4th tier of masteries. I do, like you said, I like the fact that they kind of made the this or that, but there are some downfalls definitely. So in the Ferocity tree, there's 3 different choices. I feel like
This is the carry tree, let's just be honest.
it is.
Yeah.
There's some assassin in there too, or not assassin.
I mean, say like, oh, we're looking purely at Keystone, this is the carry tree.
Yeah, I mean, because I feel like Cunning is more of a tree that's based on like control mages and stuff like that, like as far as the keystones go. But there is one clear AP option here in the Deathfire Touch, giving your abilities an additional burn effect. That's nice for anyone, especially that's doing burst damage. I mean, you're going to be able to burst them down and then have the damage over time that might kill them off, especially if you put it in conjunction with like Ignite. Warlord's Bloodlust makes critical strikes heal you for 15% of the damage. Now, I read something earlier that initially this was something that could proc on anything, including minions or monsters in the jungle. So you could essentially heal yourself, like if you're an ADC, you could heal yourself pretty much up to full, like in next to no time at all. But apparently they have changed that now, or they're talking about changing it to where it will only work on champions, which kind of makes more sense and makes it more balanced. And then lastly is the Fervor of Battle, which gives your basic attacks and spells give stacks of fervor, stacking up to 10 times. That does 1 to 8 bonus physical damage for your basic attacks. That's kind of cool, but that seems like something more of a...
No, Riven mains everywhere, rejoice. Because if you're a combo-based AD caster, Fervor of Battle is amazing.
There you go. I was thinking also someone who's like AD bruiser, like maybe like Pantheon would go more for the critical strikes. There's somebody that I'm thinking of that I can't think of a name at the moment.
Riven would work well with Fervor. A Darius you can't get off. A lot of the Juggernauts would actually work well with Fervor if they're going for a bit more damage-oriented approach.
Especially because I'm not worried about crits as much.
Kha'Zix potentially, Rengar definitely. Because for Rengar, if you're not bursting them out of existence in 2 seconds, you're not doing your job right. So,
right.
Warlord's Bloodlust is kind of pointless. And Deathfire Touch, same thing. Fervor of Battle means that as you burst one person down and you can push into the next guy, you're now doing additional damage because you've comboed through all of your stuff.
Right.
Right.
So overall, it looks like they're pretty well defined as far as, one's for the ADCs, one's for the AP carries, and the other is for the brawlers in the middle. Moving on to the Cunning tree, there is Storm Raider Surge, which deals, when you burst someone 30% of their maximum health within 2 seconds, you gain 35 bonus movement speed. Now, that to me, it sounds good in theory, but I don't see where it's all that useful, because usually...
Fizz.
Okay, in that...
Just think about it. Fizz bursts you, he's out of gap closers. Oh wait, he has 35% bonus movement speed. GG.
Okay, there's somebody that would benefit from it. But in most cases, I mean, if you're LeBlanc, you're bursting in and then you're already back out without really... I mean, the 30% could help you run away faster, but it seems in most cases that bursting someone... I mean, I guess it'll give you some extra move speed to chase, if need be.
Or to get the frick out. Because even if let's say LeBlanc does a deep dive, like goes from front line, double distortion to the back line, nukes them out, and now she's back where the front line still is, now she can run away.
I guess that makes sense, but it does seem like the weakest of the 3, in my opinion. The other one seems to be really good for like a control mage or someone like Lux or someone else who's basically most of their abilities are like utility abilities, which is someone that I would most likely play if I was playing mid, someone like that, or Ziggs or whatever. So just having the third ability or basic attack on an enemy champion shock them to do a little AoE damage, especially if they're walking around with creeps. It can help with wave clear, other things. It just seems like something that helps those types of champions that need the extra help.
Oriana would be so happy with that.
Her too, yeah.
Yes.
Any control mage, definitely. And then the third one is the support. Basically, the best support keystone that I've out of the options available. It's what I'm using on my support page. Gives your heals, your shields and heals 10% stronger, and then if you shield or heal an ally, they gain 15% increased armor and magic resist. So if you're playing pretty much any support, the majority of them give some sort of shield or have a heal, you're going to be benefiting your ADC like non-stop. Moving on to the resolve tree, which is the tank tree. Although I have to say that I feel like, as opposed to like the old defense tree, you really don't see very many tank stats. I mean, it's mostly just health regen and things like that. The bonus that you get to armor isn't until you get down to the 5th tier.
Well, the thing is that Resolve actually has a lot of the random things that were sprinkled out through in the offense and defense and utility trees originally. Like Tough Skin was sitting in the offense tree, the 2 less damage, and Runic Armor was a utility, Veteran Scar was in defense. Perseverance is actually new. Legendary Guardian and Swiftness were both defense, but they were low defense ones.
It just seems like prior to this, if you were to go, the full 21 points in defense, you were getting more base tank stats than you are now if you go full 18 into Resolve. But they do make up for that with the keystones. The first one, Grasp of the Undying, every 4 seconds in combat, your next attack against an enemy champion steals life equal to 3% of your maximum health. That, I play a lot of Maokai in the top lane, like that. Oh my god, that would be so great, because he already has his passive.
I was playing ARAM as Volibear with that, and every 4 seconds you have your bite. That's based off your maximum health. I had like a Warmogs and a bunch of other stuff by that point, and their Fiora just started running from me.
When you see Fiora run, that's when you know you're doing something right. That's the one I'm running currently because I tend to play champions that, in the tanks in the top lane, that's usually what I play, and they're just going to benefit from that. They usually also have some sort of built-in sustain already. I mean, Shen has his, Renekton has it, Scion's got his own sorts of sustain and stuff, so I mean, it's just a no-brainer. But there is another one that is nearly as good, if not better, depending on who you are playing, and that's the Bond of Stone. You get the 4% damage reduction all the time, and then 8% when near at least one ally champion. And also, 8% of the champion that the nearest ally champion would take is dealt to you instead. Now, the only reason I didn't take this one instead, I like the fact that it makes you like stronger, more unstoppable as far as being a tank, being able to take more damage, but also shielding whoever's near to you or out of position or whatever. But it does kind of suck that you're taking all the extra damage. I mean, sometimes somebody might just do something stupid, and I can see where they put themselves in a bad position. The ADC gets too close to the front line, and now you're shielding them for all the damage they're taking. I mean, it won't lower you below 15 health, but you're probably going to be at that 15% health a lot of the time during team fights because of having that.
Yeah, but it makes a big difference. I had one game where they were, ARAM again, where they were diving, they had a Zed that just kept getting past us and going after our Ashe, and that, I swear, that made the difference with her surviving. Just because every time...
You also have to consider it says damage dealt, which means that it's damage before any resistances have been applied. So what might burst an ADC from 100 to 0 will plink 15% of your health away.
Yeah, I'm not arguing that it's a bad choice. I'm just saying that between the two, I like the extra sustain more than the damage reduction, because I'm usually, when I play top, it's like one damage item and everything else tank. If it's Maokai, it's a Rod of Ages with nothing but tank after that. If it's... Who else do I play up there? If Hecarim, I actually do build... I'll build a Trinity and then build everything else. So, I mean, in most cases, I already have a lot of damage reduction anyway, so I didn't see it as being as useful, but I could see it being useful in a lot of situations. Then the last one is Strength of the Ages. This one I feel is probably the worst out of maybe all of them. Killing a siege minion or large monster increases your maximum health by 20 and 10 respectively, up to 300 health. So you're pretty much, if you're a solo top laner, you're gonna get that extra 300 health in the laning phase. I mean, I guess if you want to save, how much crystal does a crystal give you? 200, 250 health crystal?
Ruby crystal?
Yeah.
I think it's 250.
So, yeah, I mean, if you want to save that 400 gold and put it towards something else, I mean, I guess that's useful, but otherwise it just seems like redundant.
I'd say the more important thing's the latter one. After maxing it, you restore 100 health when a nearby siege minion dies.
That's great, but how... I mean, you only get those,
That's
once every other lane?
siege minion, by the way it's worded. It says a nearby. It doesn't say enemy siege minion. It just says a nearby siege minion dies.
Oh.
So you can get 200 health on a cannon wave for free.
Okay, that's nice.
That's
but
pretty strong.
I still think that that's less impactful than the other two.
True.
Especially the 3% of your maximum health if you have a lot of health.
But if you're a split pusher, it's pretty dang good sustained.
Yeah, okay, so that could be the split pusher's keystone. I could see that. Have you guys fully customized your mastery pages yet?
On my main account, only for the roles I've played a lot recently. They're so easy to build that as the roles have come up, I'm building them then. That's one thing I do like about the new system is you know if you're going to go all the way down, in what line, rather quickly, and you can quickly create a mastery page without needing to memorize which icons are which.
Right.
Because that was the thing, the old masteries were horrid. You had to just pretty much memorize where the icons were, else you were not finishing it in Champion Select.
Yeah, I never did that. I always made sure they were always prepared. Usually when they do a sweeping overhaul like this, because I only have 7 rune pages, so I tend to run those in conjunction with 7 masteries pages. I've never gone beyond that just because I don't usually get down to the micromanaging of doing one for every champion I play. Though this system, I think, lends itself to that. Where you probably should find the 10 or 20 champions you pick and use every available mastery page and get it down for everyone. But typically, I mean, I set them up just to generalized roles. Like, you know, this is a tank page, this is the ADC page, this is the APC page, yada yada. I think you can get a basic rune page out that will cover pretty much every role and keep it to where it's, you know, encapsulated. This will work for every single ADC. I mean, you might want to tweak 1 or 2 things for a specific champion, but for the most part, you can get a basic page for every role. I think it just depends on how much of a min-maxer you are.
I mean, that's predominantly what I do. Like we said earlier, I do mostly ARAM, so, you know, I never know who I'm going to get, and I only have so many mastery pages, so I try to have a bunch of general ones that will probably work for any particular champion I get, whatever role I feel like, or I'm going to end up taking in that particular game.
Right. And then you also have the benefit of being able to create a new one real quick for that unexpected champion that you never play, but happen to own.
Here.
Richard, what about you? Have you set up your pages?
I set up about 5 of them, mostly for mages and support, and then anything that shows up, or if I need to change them for a specific matchup, I've actually found that it's much easier this go around to make changes, like was mentioned, make changes in the champion select. So that works out pretty good right now.
What about runes? I know that they didn't change runes, but do you guys feel that like your previously made rune pages are still viable, or did you have to make rune page changes as well?
I haven't moved any of my runes. They still work for the sort of stuff I do.
Yeah, I'm too lazy.
Same thing. Lazy. Don't really. I only have a couple rune pages to begin with, so.
Let's not talk about my rune page count, okay? I think I'm at max.
What is the max?
20.
20?
20.
Yeah. I started with the original 2, and I think I bought one of those packs at some point where it comes with the. No, wait, isn't that 7? So no, it should have been.
7-pack.
I guess I didn't do that. I guess I nickeled and dimed one at a time over the years. I've gotten up to 7, and I've felt pretty comfortable with that. I didn't change any of mine either, and I feel that they synchronize pretty well with the new mastery builds that I made. All right, well, any other thoughts on the mastery changes?
I do think that Warlord's Bloodlust is really kind of OP right now. Especially if you're going against somebody like a Yasuo.
That was the main character why they were talking about making the change.
Yeah, they really have to make that change because he's just so overpowered right now.
They just need to change his dang passive. It's too good.
Yeah.
You get double crit for your money. on everything. So it's like, oh,
Yeah.
I just picked up a Phantom Dancer at 60% crit just there. Haha, suckers.
Yeah, and he hits one thing and he's back to full health. I mean, yeah.
Yeah, that's a little OP. I do think that I'm not sure if that change came through already. I was just reading about it today, so like I said, I'm not sure if it came through already or if it's going to be like a hot fix kind of thing. But they were talking about changing that, and I think that would probably be for the better. Okay, so let's see, what's the next bit? Oh, the marksman updates.
Oh, yes.
All that whining during Season 5 paying off. I mean, you can't exactly disagree with them, but at the same time, it was a little bit ridiculous.
You know, I play a lot of ADC, so I can see where these changes were good. Not necessarily necessary, because I still felt like... I mean, if you're playing Jinx and you snowball just a little bit, it's over for the other team. I mean, there's just no way of getting around that. So I think it just always used to come down to whichever ADC got snowballed better, because they just had better ganks or better roams from mid, or just happened to kill off both of you in some bad dive or whatever, and they get snowballed. It just seemed like the game was over as far as your bottom lane. If you're the ADC versus them, you're done. You have to play passively and just wait until, either the perfect gank or something to kind of pull you out of that, or for them to just make enough mistakes to where you swing it back the other direction. It feels like there's a little bit more nuanced ways of going about things now. So the marksmans that have been changed are Quinn, Graves, Corki, Kog'Maw, Misfortune, and Caitlyn. Now, they did do changes to all the remaining ADCs, but they're all just minor tweaks instead of full-on kit reworks. Do you guys play any of these champions?
Yeah, I play Caitlyn. She was the first champion I ever played, and she's still the ADC I'm best at, even if I'm sometimes shoved on other ones. And I played her changes, and I love them. Traps used to be that thing nobody knew how to use, and now they're so powerful.
I love Trap. I love Caitlyn too. I play her. She used to be one of my mains. Her and Twitch were two that I played a lot. But then after the Twitch rework, I haven't used him nearly as much. Although there are some changes to his ambush and his ult now. His ambush, the stealth, resets cooldown whenever an enemy champion affected by deadly venom dies. So in team fights, that's going to be amazing. More so like it used to be, where you could just have it up all the time. I used to be able to walk across the entire map stealth because of how long that shit lasted. I used to love it. But I do also play... I've played Graves. I played Graves quite a bit ranked last season, and Corki. Those were actually the two that I used the most outside of Jinx. Quinn, I've never liked her. I don't understand why anybody ever plays her. Like, she just seems so... ugh.
The thing about Quinn is that they did fix her kit eventually, that it actually made sense. It's based around outplaying. The issue was that when the kit first came out, and this completely tainted the image, her E, which her critical skill is the E of Vault. You could be interrupted in the middle of your E. So you can just hey, big bruiser dude, I'm just going to bring myself into your face so you can stun me and I'll die. It's cool. They did eventually fix that, but it took too long. So the niche of being kind of like a Vayne for skirt, or a different sort of Vayne who can split push better.
Yeah, she's a duelist, and that's what I always usually see her do is being a split pusher. Someone who plays her top, I'm sure she's probably good, I guess, but playing her as a traditional ADC, not so much. I never felt that she fit well into that role. Graves, I've not played him, but I like what they did to his kit, making his gun an actual shotgun now, which it's been the whole time, but never operated like one. That's cool, and it actually has a knockback on it.
For minions, not for champions.
Just the overall different things that they did with it. He just feels better, a little more bursty, but also someone that has to get up in your face to be able to do that bursty damage. Corki's also another favorite of mine. I like the whole little special delivery thing that they put in, the rocket from your base to get out to the fight faster, but then also being able to drop bombs with your Valkyrie. I don't really play Kog'Maw or Misfortune. Misfortune used to feel good, and then they, over the years, she just kind of got worse. I don't know how to say it.
She never had mobility. She was an amazing lane bully, but she had zero mobility as an ADC, in a very, very long time, I'd say season 3, 4, and 5 all had extreme emphasis on mobility. And if you couldn't get out the way, short of flashing, you're just trash. The exception would be Kog'Maw because his end game is just death. So if you could protect a Kog'Maw, he will solo carry a game, hence Juggernaut compositions. Misfortune is wombo combo. You can wombo combo with people who are so much more survivable than she is.
Yes. Now, do you think that the changes to her kit will make her more viable? Because, I mean, that was what their goal was with all of these. These were like the, not necessarily lesser played, but they felt that they needed attention. In the case of, I would say Corki and Graves probably still got played pretty regularly because I used to see them more often, but the others kind of felt like they needed some love. Do you think that their changes to their kits? Do you think the changes to their kits made a difference? I mean, she still doesn't seem to have mobility, really.
She doesn't, but they made Strut. They actually improved Strut. I'm got to give them that. The issue with Strut was somebody's had to plink you once and you lost all your mobility. You didn't have a reactivate option, kind of like Poppy does with her W. Now you do. So if you need to get the heck out of dodge, you can do that. You can specifically get out by your option as opposed to pretty much the negligence of the enemy team of not locking you down.
So she's got like a little sprint, basically.
Basically, Teemo's, what is it, his W?
It's like a better move quick. It's straight up, it's better move quick because when you activate it, you also get a attack speed boost.
Oh yeah, when it's activated, it's instantly max movement speed instead of ramping up like it normally would do with the passive. Yeah, otherwise, there were some changes to other champions that are ADCs, but for the most part, most of those are negligible, just little tweaks and whatnot.
I disagree. Caitlyn's actually added a lot more play to her kit with the way they approached headshot and interactions with Snap Trap and 90 caliber net.
No, I wasn't talking about the ones that they specifically worked.
The other ones.
The other ADCs outside of that.
Okay.
Yeah, no, I like Caitlyn's changes. I like all of their changes, really, but I haven't tested them enough to really say, oh yeah, that's way better, or it's way worse.
It's way better for Kate.
Well, it seems to me like they've really done a good job in making a lot of the ADCs distinctive now. They all seem to have their specialities, and I think that'll go a long way to making the game more interesting and make different combos of ADC and their supports and the rest of the team a lot better.
I want to agree with that, just because one of the things I saw going into this is, I can't remember which Riot person it was, or maybe it was on the original screen, but that they're trying, in the past, when they come out with a new ADC especially, it's how is this person going to fit in the meta? Do they have their dash? Do they have their, steroid? And with these, they were talking about how they're kind of saying, screw the meta. We're just going to give these ADCs sort of something they're good at and see what happens.
Yeah, I've actually played a game where I've had a jungler and 4 ADCs going against us, and we really got wiped out. They can pretty much right now play almost any role and do fairly well.
Yeah, I think that that's not going to be something you see very often, but marksmen have definitely moved into other lanes. I mean, I've seen where people were playing like AP Ezreal or AP Misfortune or whatever in the mid lane, or even taking a carry and playing them AD in the mid lane or top lane and having success. But it's rare that you'll see it where there's 3 ADCs in a comp, but you might see 2. And we see that even with like in the LCS with the pros where they've run AD or AP carries up top, or what was that one of the games in in Worlds? There was like a Hecarim mid. We've seen a lot of different weird stuff coming out of it, and this patch I think will push that even farther, just based on the fact that there are more options when it comes to the building with your masteries and everything. Just more options to use certain characters in different ways that maybe they never used before.
Sure, if you've got the crit healing and you take a crit-based ADC, you can easily go top lane with that type of combination and make a significant impact.
Right.
And have the sustain.
That normally is reserved for like the juggernauts or the bruisers up top.
Right.
So a big chunk that comes with that is a lot of the new items. It's kind of they did sweeping changes to not only offensive items and defensive items and the vision and everything else. We'll touch on each a little bit, but one of the biggest changes was to go hand in hand with all the changes they made to marksman. A lot of it is just lower gold costs for like BF sword drops down to 1,300 gold from 1,550. That makes a huge difference. I mean, even though it's not as much AD coming out of it, you end up getting the rest of that AD boost that you would get anyway once you've completed whatever item you're going for. But I mean, that to be able to go back from lane to buy your BF sword, I know like if you're playing 90% of ADCs, it used to always be that was your first back. Wait until you have BF sword and go back. If you're forced back, maybe you'll get a pickaxe, maybe you'll get another Doran's if it's really bad. But something to keep you neck and neck with the opposing team and give you that nice little power spike is going down in gold, and that's kind of across the board. A lot of items are less expensive, and their build paths have changed. They've also made changes to big name items that we've known and loved for a long time, like Phantom Dancer. The Static Shiv has a new build path with that new shard. That's basically it's kind of the same thing they did with Sunfire Cape, where they added in that mini Sunfire Cape. I can't remember what the item's called off the top of my head right now. The little flame item.
Mommy Cinder?
There you go, that one. This new shard that they've added in is basically the baby Shiv that builds into the Static Shiv, but it also builds into a couple other things. Such as, I think, that builds into the Rapid Fire Cannon, which is one of the newer items.
That is a Caitlyn baby so much, Rapid Fire Cannon.
Extra attack speed, extra crit chance, and then moving around to build up stacks to have that extra range and extra magic damage on hit is definitely nice.
And it works on turrets.
Really?
Yes.
Well, that'll probably get removed.
No, energized attacks work on structures. It's specific only to the 100 stack proc.
Yeah, it only gives you that little burst.
It is a siege tool. Thus, your Caitlyn's going to likely want it every game because that's her job. She's amazing at siege.
That would work great on Jinx as well, because she's a tank or a turret killer.
Yep. Tristana could possibly use Rapid Fire Cannon.
Does she get the bonus range on top of her passive range?
Yes.
She's shooting you from
but
the
just
fucking
for that one hit.
Nexus.
Just for that one hit.
Right, but she's shooting mid lane from the Nexus.
It builds pretty fast, too. I tried one out last night.
Range on 650 is pulling out math. Only 878 range. It's no big deal.
She's shooting the Dragon Pit from the Baron Pit.
No, not that bad.
Hey, Ziggs, nice bombs. Watch this.
Yeah.
The thing is that by the same token, I'd say they're doing well at their plan of itemization. You put that item on somebody like Cogmon, it's a complete waste. He doesn't need that. He does not need bonus range. He's got his R.
And he doesn't really move around enough to activate it.
Yep, he sits still and rapid fire cannons with his W.
What's also nice too that they've kind of simplified building, because that's one of the major complaints that I've heard from 90% of people that I know that haven't tried League or have tried it and say that the reason it's too complicated is because of the item builds. And adding more to it kind of makes it more complex, but at the same time they've simplified build paths where, like, remember back in the day, like, there was cloth armor and then there was the chainmail, and it was two separate things, and cloth armor didn't build into chainmail. It was just certain things took chainmail to build and other things took cloth armor to build, and it was stupid. Now they've made it to where cloth armor builds into chain armor that builds into other things. And then they made the, one health crystal will go into a giant's belt, and with magic resist, the small null mantle gets changed into the big one, and so on and so forth. So they've done that, and then given options with some of the big ticket items like Last Whisper that was pretty much a mandatory build on every single ADC because of the tank meta that emerged during last season, which I think is probably gotten worse because of the addition of Juggernauts. But now, instead of just having that bonus armor pen, you can build it into Mortal Reminder, which gives the grievous wounds, because they brought Executioner's Calling back, which was interesting and unexpected. That was an item I never ever used, which is probably why it got removed in the first place. But Grievous Wounds is good because of the the reduced healing that champion afflicted by it will...
Mundo will not be able to go wherever he pleases.
Right.
Well, it's almost like that item was pretty much we're still aware that, Juggernauts just became really popular.
Yeah. And then there's the other option of Lord Dominic's Regards, which gives 15% damage against enemy champions with greater maximum health than you, which, as an ADC, is basically everyone.
And it caps at 500 health difference, so that 3k health tank, 15% bonus damage, period, because it's based on maximum health, not current.
So it kind of... What was that item? I can't remember what it's called now. It got removed...
The Dread's Blood Razor.
There you go. You already knew where I was going.
I love that item. It's so good.
I used to use that so much. Any tank would just get shredded by that because it just went through their max health, or it was the same idea.
And it did magic damage. That was what's ridiculous about it. It did magic damage while doing all that.
Yeah. So, I mean, I could see why they removed it, because that item was kind of OP, but they've basically resurrected it in this option for Last Whisper. So you basically have, the two different options. It's you can get Last Whisper and leave it at that for a while, just getting the bonus armor pen, but then you can go one of two ways. Either you get Grievous Wounds, so all those big tanks can't heal as fast, or get healing from their teammates or whatever, say they have a Sona or a Soraka, and they've got all their own, sustain built in. You can affect that, or you can go the opposite direction and just shred their health on top of doing the bonus armor pin. So that's just ridiculous.
And the nice thing about the sort of middle items, the Last Whispers now, is it allows you to sort of change up your build path if they, start building a specific way, or if there's something that you didn't think about at the beginning.
Right, you don't have to sell the Last Whisper and buy something else because it was a bad item. You just build it into one of two items that's going to help one way or the other.
Last Whisper was never a bad item. Because of its function, it was never a bad item.
No, but I understand what he meant.
Yeah, I mean, Last Whisper is a bad example, but there were some of the others, like the chainmail and stuff, or what's it called, glacial, completely, where you buy this item and then, later on you're like, I probably should have gotten X, Y, or Z instead of this. So
well, the same thing comes into the defensive itemization. Like you were saying with Glacial Shroud, that used to only build into Frozen Heart, and then eventually they added the Gauntlet.
That's what it was, the Icebound Gauntlet.
Yeah. So having the extra option there, if you would have built Glacial Shroud initially and then gone, well, wait, I need more AP, not more armor, or you get what I'm saying. You have the extra options to get out of a bad build path for your particular scenario. Most of the defensive items otherwise haven't really changed because they did a lot of that with the Juggernaut patch. Same goes for AP items. It's mostly just adjustment of gold.
Everything's more expensive.
Well, some of it's more. I think total cost has gone up on most of them, but the components, some of them cost less. Null Magic Mantle stayed the same. There was a couple items that it ended up where they're a little bit less expensive during build paths, so it just feels like you can get to your little power spikes a little bit faster.
Yeah, for the mid-game type power spikes.
Right. The end-game stuff, you're still spending more money overall. But I think that comes partially with some of the tuning that they did in regards to the Rift itself. Ambient Gold. Instead of 9.5 per 5, you now get 10.2, which isn't a whole lot, but at the end of a game, that adds up to quite a bit. And then after 12 minutes, the two members of each team with the least gold at any given moment gain an additional 2 gold per 5 seconds. So basically, they've made it to where everybody kind of stays on an equal playing field. You probably won't see as many supports that are, 3 or 4 levels lower than the rest of their team because of that.
Thank goodness.
Yeah. Well, and as a support, I'm sure...
I'm a support main. Nothing is more painful than if you're behind because of mistakes or somebody got ahead or whatnot, and you can't ever catch up because you're not spending as much time in lane as everybody else is, so you're 3, 4 levels behind doing your job, but your team is behind, so you get shafted.
Yeah,
right.
that happens.
If I recall correctly, the change to bounties was also supposed to help that now that it distributes some around the team.
Correct. Bounties are changed a little bit in that they provide team gold Tier 1, 20, 30, 60, 70, 90, all the way up. Consecutive assists no longer grant bonus gold, so that kind of removes... That's kind of a negative against supports again, but...
Let me just point out the BF sword change from earlier. The new value, at least in ARAM, means you can buy it right off the bat. So it can be
Really?
your first item as an ADC.
I didn't even notice that.
Yeah, I tried it
Oh.
last night as... I think I was playing Ashe. It makes a big difference to have, instead of, whatever you particularly start with. depending on the build.
70-ish,
Yeah.
jumping all the way up to over 100 right off the bat, yeah. That's what I used to love about Fiora. You could just pump 3 points into her, the one that gives her the passive attack damage, and be at like 120 right out the gate.
Yeah.
One of the biggest changes, though, is with support items. With the way Sightstones work, they only have 3 wards now instead of 4, but they can be built into different things outside of just a Ruby Sightstone. Which the Ruby Sightstone was fine. I mean, if you're getting to late game, you have nothing else to buy. It gives you a few extra health and extra ward, which is always good to have on hand. But now you can build into 3 different items that are completely different, but still serve the same function. It's kind of like that jungler item, the Lantern, that they used to have.
Wriggles.
Yeah, Wriggles.
Yeah. So you had that extra... That was only 1 ward, but, I mean, that was such a great jungle item, because you would always have that 1 extra ward just in case you needed it. So now you have...
Everywhere we're so happy.
Yeah. So you have the option now of building into one of 3 different items that combine what your gold item would be and your Sightstone. So instead of having 1 gold generation item that you build up into something that you may or may not use, which 9 times out of 10 you're probably not using it all that much anyway, and then a Sightstone separately, you now have the option to have them combined. So it frees up an extra slot for playing support. The first one is called Eye of the Watchers, and that comes from the Frostfang, which is the one that you get bonus gold on hit on champions. That was the one I used primarily because I play a lot of Morgana and other ranged supports. It grants ability power health, the 2 gold per 10 seconds, gives you some mana regen, and then aside from being able to place wards, you also have the gold on hit. 15 additional damage and 15 gold on hit to a champ, up to 3 times every 30 seconds. That's probably the one I'm going to use the most of, outside of when I'm playing a tanky support. Eye of the Oasis is the other, builds from the Nomad's Medallion, which gives the bonus gold on a minion death being near you, without you actually being the one that kills it. So then it'll have the that passive along with being able to place wards. And then the third one is the Targon's Brace one, which is the tanky support version. And that still does the execute on minions that are nearby that will heal an ally, and then the stealth wards. I think that's pretty cool. It's a good addition, and it kind of... I don't know, you guys said that you play a lot of support, so what do you think?
I've never actually used Eye of the Oasis because I think Talisman of Ascension is just... If I'm going to go down that path, that engage/disengage potential at Talisman of Ascension, you can't beat it with an additional ward. You just can't. So I haven't actually built Eye of the Oasis yet. I've built Eye of the Equinox a good deal because I tend to play relic users a good bit, like Thresh, Leona.
Braum.
I don't like
Nautilus.
actually playing Braum, but I could play him.
I play Braum and Nautilus usually if I'm going to go tanky in the bottom. Nautilus support is fucking OP. I don't care what you say.
I really need to get better with Nautilus support because it's so troll in a good way. It's like Thresh. You could just create plays where there wasn't one because you're Nautilus.
Yeah, and he's so tanky. And then all you have to build on him is a Rod of Ages, and he has enough damage through the late game. It's outrageous. I don't know why more people don't play him. But
Because he's not Taric?
Oh God, does anyone even still play Taric? That's
No,
the
please.
question.
But I hate Taric with a passion because he requires so little skill, and yet he's still actually halfway decent.
Gems are truly outrageous.
Well, he's getting his
They
review
seriously need to,
eventually.
they need to throw him in the rework pile because
thought he
that's
was.
stupid.
I think he is.
Good. He needs it because
He needs it terribly.
yeah, I used to play him back like late season 2, early season 3, and then I learned how to play Thresh, and it's like, why would I play Taric when Thresh can do more with the application of a little bit of skill as opposed to just point and click? EWR and hope that they died.
And hope you don't.
Well, you're unlikely to die. Your ADC likely would die before you did.
But then in turn you end up getting ganged up on and die anyway. I don't know, my brother-in-law, I got him into playing the game back in probably late season 2, and that was one of the first champions he picked up. And he used to play support for me all the time. Back then I was probably playing more Twitch and other ADCs that probably didn't synergize with him. Either way, we did okay, but most of the time it was just bad. And so I started. Then Thresh came out. He ended up buying Thresh. He was a much better Thresh player, and that worked out a lot better.
Sounds familiar.
It does. Beyond that, the other big change, item-wise, is vision, which is going to be something that we can all probably relate to, because supports are usually the ones that get yelled at when they're not placing enough vision, even though it is... All the changes that have come in the past year or so have been tailored to make the entire team worry about vision, yet it's still, quote, the support's job.
Kind of a community thing, too, though. It takes time for people to sort of figure that out.
Yeah.
But you can't blame the jungler, you have to blame the support.
The thing that pisses me off is that because of all the support that I've played, and knowing how to ward, when to roam, all those types of things, it doesn't matter what role I play now, I place wards. If I'm in the jungle, I'm placing wards. If I'm up top, I'm placing wards. If I'm the ADC, I probably buy more ADC. Like, there's been times where I've been ADC and have bought more wards than my support. That drives me crazy.
Yeah.
As a support main, if I'm going ADC, dude, I'm on a back, I'll have 2 wards in inventory and maybe a vision.
Well, that is something that's going to change now to a certain degree, because obviously, if you're not playing support, you're not buying sight stones. Usually the only people that buy sight stones are support and maybe the jungle. So your responsibility would fall towards buying stealth wards, which have now been removed completely. So now it's you have to buy pink wards, if anything, outside of your trinket items. The way that they've changed the trinket items, I don't know, when you guys were playing support, did you primarily run the warding totem or sweeping lens? Did you switch?
I start with warding totem, switch to sweeping lens. Because
Yeah,
vision
absolutely.
denial is just as strong.
Yeah, because once you've gotten a sight stone, you really don't need the warding totem anymore.
Unless you're going against somebody like an Evelyn or somebody who's got stealth, then you grab the pink upgrade.
Right. So that's the major changes with the trinkets, is that the scrying orb has been removed completely, and now the warding totem can be upgraded into that. Or if you have the sweeper, it can be made into the oracle alteration, which gives you true sight for... Is that the one that follows you?
Oracle alteration, yes.
Yeah.
That's the one that the sweeper follows you?
Pretty much.
Okay.
It's kind of like it's just like the old one. It's just that the original one doesn't stay put. It comes with you.
For
Right.
10 seconds, yeah.
Right, okay. So that means that if you're playing any role outside of support, you're probably going to go with the warding totem, and then typically, at least the pros do it, where they switch to the Farsight, which they used to do the scrying orb, but now it's the alteration. And then they also made it to where all of these will upgrade automatically at that, level 9, where you used to have to pay for it?
Yes.
And nobody did.
I did, because as a support, you needed that ability to clear more than one ward.
It seemed that in most cases, in most games, no one was really ever upgrading them. So now they've kind of made it to where you don't have to worry about that part. You can now choose to change it if need be. Otherwise, you're still running around the warding totem. And I honestly don't care if my whole team is doing warding totems and I'm the only one with a sweeper, as long as they're actually using their wards. Which, that's hit or miss. But overall, it looks like they have tried to focus more towards making vision a bigger part of the game, which they've been trying to do for a while now. It just looks like they're kind of pushing it more into everyone's consciousness, slowly but surely.
I think next season they're going to have automatic warding, where every 5 minutes you'll automatically place a ward wherever you're standing.
No, I actually see in this they're trying to reduce how strong vision is, and force you to pick. Because when you think about it, like previously, there's only a 3 ward limit on the support, but you could get a pretty large number of wards bought in the early and mid games and just coat the map on them. now you can't do that. The ability to do that literally doesn't exist. You're limited by timers and max capacity. I've seen a lot of games, they are dark, and people are warding. And you kind of have to like predict the enemy way more than you used to, because they can literally get behind you without you seeing them at all, because there isn't a ward.
Depending on the elo, that happens all the time anyway. I can attest to being
True, but I'm saying in
stuck
cases
bronze
where
for a
wards
while.
are going down, that's still the case.
Well, but I think that they've kind of focused it to make a team-wide awareness of how many wards everyone has and how they're using them. Like you said, it's more of a choice rather than just blanket the whole map. But that means you're still going to have choke points warded. You're still going to have, the objectives warded and stuff like that. But you might not have as many deep wards in enemy jungles or in your own jungle from the enemy. So there may be more darkness on screen more often. But I don't think that's necessarily bad as long as you're paying attention to where everyone is.
That's fair.
But that's part of the problem, is that, not everybody has map awareness, and that's part of what I think that they're trying to help with, but then at the same time, that taking away from overall vision can kind of destroy that as well. One of the other bigger changes to the Summoner's Rift that I wanted to touch on that I forgot about was the Rift Herald. That's basically a new minion, or new jungle monster, that is being added in. It spawns in the Baron Pit, but it is basically a smaller version of that gives a smaller version of the buff that Baron gives.
It only goes to one person.
Basically, it's a new objective on the map that gives top lane something to do aside from being an island for most of the game.
I'm really curious to see how it plays out, because a lot of the meta developed around the fact that the dragon is the first major objective and it's on bottom lane.
That's still in the games that I've played. Rift Herald only gets taken when the opposing team is ridiculously far ahead and can just doesn't even have to worry about it being competed against. The enemy top lane fed pretty harsh, and everybody else is squirreling around somewhere else. That's the only times I've seen it taken.
Well, it does seem to provide an interesting dynamic because of the fact that there was only objectives on the bot lane for most of the game, and then there was now Baron at the top when it spawns at 20 minutes. So having this up there means that if the enemy team does something like they have the jungle come down, gank bot, and they're successful and clear that out, you might be able to, say your jungler's up by the top at that point, shit happened down bottom, you now know that everybody or a majority of the team is down bottom, you have a reason to go top and actually try and get that. It has the interplay that Dragon and Baron has is now there all match long rather than just towards the end of the game. Although the buff is not nearly as effective as Baron is, because it only goes to the one person, it only lasts for a certain amount of time, and it gives a smaller buff to your minions and as far as movement speed and damage and stuff like that goes, and then you get the Baron recall. It still seems like it's got enough of a draw there that maybe you could use that to split push, or not necessarily split push, but just have your top lane, if he gets that, he can push in hard, maybe take out that tower, and then be able to focus on dragon fights or other parts on the map. So it just adds a whole level of complexity that wasn't there before. And anything else to add?
Nope. I think you covered it all.
Cool. I'm getting pretty good at bullshitting.
Well, one thing I have noticed is it does tend to take, almost 3 players to really focus on the Rift Herald. I guess there's a bug right now where the ice is staying open for most of the fights, and so if you go behind him, you can actually kill him a lot easier. But he's pretty tough. He's not as easy to take down as the dragon is at this point.
That'll probably get adjusted. Then again, maybe it won't, because it's supposed to be, because you don't want to, because there's times where it just seems like the enemy team is consistently snowballing by getting all the dragons before your team. They just are on it and they're getting it more often. It kind of gives you that advantage of being able to take map pressure over there and maybe get a dragon that way, or there's just a lot of different counterplay options there between the two objectives that I don't see where they would want to make it as easy as Dragon, because Dragon can get taken down pretty early.
Right. And I'm wondering, is it going to lead to more like a support or even an ADC to TP and get up there, do a quick herald, and get back down into lane at the bot lane, kind of like the top laners do now to get dragon.
Yeah, because a lot of times top will port down.
I'm just glad it isn't a 5-man lane bot all of a sudden by about 10 minutes. That was so annoying.
Yeah.
It's like whoever 5-manned more effectively at 10 minutes, just one bot lane for you, and you didn't have a choice in the matter.
That's true. That did happen quite often. But that's the thing, is if a 5-man happens and they go down bot and they're obviously going to take that tower, you can easily say, okay, well, like 2 or 3 people go up and take that, and maybe that has the benefit of helping top lane push out the first tower, or maybe even into the second tower as a counterplay. So that might come into effect and actually make that kind of a fair trade, but who knows? They did make a big change to teleport as well.
They just straight up nerfed the thing back to where it was.
Yeah. It just takes a little bit longer to use, and the cooldown is a little bit longer. So, I'm not sure that we'll see more people taking teleport. And then they got rid of clairvoyance and clarity, which... Did anybody actually use those?
Not since Season 2.
Yeah. I might use clarity on an ARAM once in a while, but...
I was going to say, ARAM is the only place I know.
The only time I saw clarity was when I knew somebody did not know how to play the game.
Yeah. Well, clairvoyance was okay, but it obviously got replaced by the blue trinket.
Although I will say that the loss of the mana pots are kind of annoying at times.
Oh, well, that's something we didn't talk about. The changes to the starting items. Well, the thing is, though, is that, okay, so mana pots are gone. Yeah, that's annoying. But that's I didn't really use a lot of mana pots. Even as a support, I would usually just run healing pots, because you usually have some sort of mana regeneration that you'll build.
Right. I used to take Morgana mid lane, and because she'd already had so much spell vamp on her W, I would go with the 2 mana pots instead of the health pots as a starting item, and that would just let you stay there a lot longer. Now it's kind of annoying.
They did change the mana regen on Doran's Ring, though. That might help.
That does help a little bit, yeah.
And then they also, gave the couple other starting items outside of the normal Doran's, where there's the Dark Seal that builds into Mejai's, which I never, ever, ever use, but somebody who's snowbally and good at playing a mid lane carry would probably love that. And then I think Cole actually would be pretty good for ADCs, just because of the fact that it gives the life on hit, and then the additional gold right out the gate, so that you can hurry and get to your power spikes a little bit faster. But yeah, overall, the item changes are still fresh for all of us, so I don't think we have enough experience to go over them.
Yeah, I found I'm buying fairy charms a lot earlier in place of like a mana pot or something like that, so you get the mana regen prior to building it into your chalice or something like that.
Right. Yeah, sometimes that can be useful. But I would think that, with an AP carry mid lane, I would think that using a Doran's would be pretty much effective. And if you needed extra, you would just buy another Doran's, because you get extra AP. But as like Morgana playing her support, I definitely would try and get some sort of mana regen pretty quickly. Just because, no mana, you're useless.
Right, absolutely.
Okay, so moving on, new champ select. The biggest change that I'm most excited for. It's basically team builder, but they're building it for use in ranked and other queues, so that you can have kind of that team builder experience, but still play ranked games. That was something I was disappointed with when team builder first released, because it was like, okay, this is cool, but I can't use it in ranked queues, so it doesn't help at all. They've also made changes to the way ranked queues will work, where you can actually do more than just solo or dual queue. You can actually queue with 5 players if you want. If you know people that are all relatively equal in skill and you all want to go and play together, you can do that in ranked games now, and it's not necessarily, having to be separated to ranked teams.
What, you're not going to bring your bronze friends in the Diamond League?
I mean, I guess you could. The thing is that you're going to get placed. It's supposed to work that if it's just one of you, it's still solo queue. Nothing's changed. If it's duo queue, then you're supposed to have a duo in the opposing team. If it's 3 of you queuing, then there's supposed to be a party of 3 that is queued on the other side. I'm not sure how it's going to work, if it's going to be perfect, how that's going to affect like queue timers and stuff, but it still seems like an overall good change. Pretty much how it's going to work is that when you're first assembling your team, before you even go into the drafting phase, you're going to be able to pick your primary and secondary roles that you want to play. And then once you've actually gone into the champion select and picks and bans, once you've all agreed that you're all going to play whatever particular role, then you go into pick and ban phase, and you can actually kind of tell everybody like what champion you're going to pick. And if it gets banned out, well, you're SOL. If it's picked by the other team, same thing. But if you're able to pick that champion, then you can go ahead and do it, provided that your team agrees. I just think that it's kind of a nicer way of going about getting into ranked games. I mean, what do you guys think?
Oh, I'm super excited for this. I mean, I played a lot of Heroes, and part of the reason I was attracted to that originally is, I sort of said this earlier, but, I get into a game, I don't want to have to, like, fight with my team just so that I can play the character I want to play. Because, I'm one of those people who has, like, 5 or 6 that that's who I want to play. So with this, I can go in saying, I love, I don't know, Caitlyn and Fiora, so I'm going to be ADC or marksman, I guess, or top. And, at least I have a much better chance now of getting those.
Yeah, it's not going to be guaranteed, but it's still at least you going into it with your team saying, like, yes, this is what I want to play, and you guys want to play those things. You don't have the arguments when you get into their, like, ADC or feed. It seems like it's something that will also cut down on toxicity, not necessarily the toxicity in games where people are saying you suck, but less of those pre-game arguments where it's like, great, I'm going into this game and we already lost because everybody hates each other.
That, I think, is going to be the biggest impact, is how you're not going to have those fights in Champ Select anymore, or you'll at least have less of those fights in Champ Select, because that always seems to be something where you really start the game off on the wrong foot, and you end up snowballing the other team because you've screwed your own team one way or another because of a fight in Champ Select.
Yeah, it's one thing to be someone who's like, hey, I'm going to, like, you get in there and you type out real quick, I want to play top. And everybody agrees, okay, you can play top. And then you're like, well, I want to be creative and I'm going to pick some random off-meta pick just because I want to pick, that and play it, and it might work. I mean, I've had it happen where somebody picks something and to myself, I'm not saying it to them, but to myself, I'm like, this fucking idiot is playing fucking, whatever stupid champion pick
Poppy
in the jungle. They're like, hey, I'm going to play Twitch jungle or whatever, and you're like, really?
Chemo ADC.
Yeah, like just some dumb ass shit.
No,
and
if you're support.
Yeah, any of those, they're all terrible, terrible options, but yet you'll see someone pick that and you're like, dude, this is going to suck. And then I've seen it go one way where, like, they totally wreck because nobody was expecting that weird pick, and it just gets into everybody's head and it works. But then I've seen it where it goes the complete opposite way, and we're just like, dude, we told you not to pick that shit. I think this might help eliminate some of that too, because they can at least say beforehand, like, hey, I want to play... That was how it worked in Team Builder. If you want to make some weird off pick, you just queue up, and people will either accept you or kick you based on that. Well, if you get in there and somebody's like, yeah, we're cool with you trying some weird shit, then great. But you're not forcing that upon people that are in their promos and trying to get somewhere, and you're just like, oh, I'm going to experiment in solo queue. Great. Ruin it for everyone.
I say the advantage is for people like me. I will be happy to play ADC, support, mid, and occasionally top, depending on comp. But you put me in jungle, and you're just asking to lose.
Basically.
And I've made that adamantly clear to people before and proven it. I'm just not that good at the role at all. It isn't a mechanics thing. I can clear the jungle just fine. I just don't put myself in the right place at the right time.
Yeah, I've had trouble with that too. Knowing which lane to be in at the right time, or it seems without fail every time I'm in the jungle, it's like I'll be clearing just fine. I might even go and do some counter jungling just fine. I might have one or two good ganks, but then it almost seems like all three lanes are pushed up at the same time. So it's like, well, which one do I want to go to? And like while you're hesitating, bad shit's happening, and everybody's like, our jungler sucks. Like you can't be in three places at once.
Right, but back to my original point, with a system like this, granted there isn't an anything but option. They've said on Reddit at least that they're not going to put that in yet. See if demand requires it, but it allows me to say I want to queue up as ADC or support.
Right.
Or I feel like I want to carry ADC or mid. I get that option, and I am guaranteed one of those two roles, as opposed to having to come into a game and, because I'm a support main, which are not that common, relatively speaking, hope that there's not another support main in the queue.
Right.
Because have you ever seen two support mains fight? They're
Yes.
busy trying to be the nicer person. It's like,
no, let me hold the door open for you. No, let me hold the door open for you.
Don't worry, I'll go ADC, you go support. No, I want to go ADC, so you could go support. I mean, you're better. Support fights are like something else. But it's still frustrating because you want to play support. If you want to support, you want to play support. You don't want to suddenly get stuck on another role.
Yeah, I find that support is one of those roles where it goes both ways. Like you can either be essentially carrying your team because of the vision, because of your saves, because of heals, whatever it is that you're just, or you happen to hit a great ult and lock up the whole team. Whatever it is, you're carrying to a degree. Or you can have those days where you can kind of play support and just kind of go with the flow. Like, you don't have to really worry about it too much. Depends on the game, of course, and the comp and a lot of other factors, but there's been a lot of times where support feels like the most relaxed role. And that's nice, if you want that.
Right.
I would argue
Right.
you're not doing your job right if you feel relaxed at support.
Well, I'm just saying that there's been times where, like, I've had... there was a guy in one of my guilds, and he wanted to play some League with me. And it turns out he was like a gold player or close to it at the time. So we did some dual queuing, and it worked out really well. He was a ADC main all the time. So sometimes I would play support with him, and if I played support with him, I really didn't have to work that hard, because he just mopped fools up. So it felt relaxing. But then there's been times, solo queue, support, you're trying your best to make sure everything's going down for everybody else.
One thing I think this will kind of solve is, I know in Heroes of the Storm, they have their dailies mechanic, where basically you're encouraged to play various roles. Like, you'll get a daily, you got to play 3 games as a warrior, or 3 games as a support, or whatever it is. And there's really no motivation in League to play the other roles. And so it seems like when you get into Champ Select and your last pick and everybody's calling their lanes, it's kind of a punishment when you have to play a role that you're not interested in playing. And so there's no motivation to do it. It's just, oh, I got to do it. So no matter how bad I am, I'm going to end up there. But this will kind of get around that, I think, and really help out in making things a lot less toxic.
Yeah, definitely.
You don't get stiff with what you suck at. Again, games where I get stuck as jungle, it's like, I know this is not going to go well. I'm telling you this up front. I'm trying to be nice.
Right.
And then I get flamed later after I've already told you, expect nothing.
And it kind of avoids the heroes problem where their team builder will stick like 3 warriors and 2 supports on a team. It's kind of like, well, this is going to be a fun game.
Right. Right.
Nothing's more hilarious than ending up with opposing team of 4 assassins and a specialist. You just roll them.
Yes.
They never get to scale. And it happens a lot. It's like, this matchmaking algorithm stinks.
Well, I think one of the major motivations to League and learning other roles isn't necessarily because you get a daily reward. It's just because in your experience playing solo queue, I'm sure you can relate that sometimes you just get stuck playing another role. So having at least one champion that you're good with at any particular role is advisable, just so that way, if you know the champion in and out, you can play it in any role, basically. You know what I'm saying? Like, so, for instance, like Elise. Elise is great in the jungle, right? So if you know how to play her, you can play her jungle, but you could also play her top, and she's viable mid. Hell, you could probably even play her as support. So,
Right.
I mean, she's someone who, that if you like learned how to, the ins and outs of that champion, learn how to play her, and then you're stuck in a bad champ select where you get stuck with jungle, at least you know you have that one person you can play in that role. And I think that's the major motivation for learning the other roles, is just so that way you have the best chance to win when you're in solo queue and you get stuck with something you don't necessarily like playing. Like, I don't like jungle, but I at least know that I can function, mediocrely with at least a couple different champions.
Yeah, I play a nasty Zyra top.
Nasty as in, like, other people die, or nasty as in you die?
Other people die.
Oh, okay.
She actually is pretty decent as a top laner. You just got to build her a little bit more tanky than usual.
Never would have thought of that.
That's the thing with League, is there's a lot of different things that can work that isn't necessarily part of the meta or encouraged, but that's one of those things where you don't want to see that. Like, if I saw you pick Zyra top on purpose, I would be like, what the fuck is wrong with you? But then if I saw it work, it would be like, well, I guess that's all right.
Yeah, it started as I had first pick, and I said I'd go mid or support, and then the next two guys picked a mid and a support, and so it was like, guys, can you read what I'm saying? So I ended up going top and carrying. So it worked out, but yeah, it wasn't like it was my first choice.
Right. Well, hopefully this new champ select will iron out some of that. We won't know until they actually put it in, but I'm looking forward to it.
I think with this, and if they would ever get the replay functionality working, I think they'll have a really good game here.
Yeah,
that seems to be a hot button issue too.
Yeah, replays about that. Last I heard, the stopgap on that was that they would have to have a lot of storage space taken up, literally storing every replay period.
Another thing that they were talking about was because the client was based on Adobe Air, and that's basically something that they're trying to move away from with a new client, but they had to start it from the ground up. So they were saying that had something to do with it. I mean, that could have nothing to do with it at all. I have no idea, but that was something else that came up in that discussion. Replay-wise, there is a program called LOL Replay that will actually record your stuff so you can watch it, and it records it locally to your computer. If not, I mean, any streaming program or recording program, you can do it yourself. So, I mean, there are workarounds for that, but yeah. Awesome Knots has a replay system built in.
Yeah, Dota, Heroes. Yeah, everything else seems to have replays except for League.
I think it's because they were one of the forefront for this particular genre.
That's what a lot of people...
They didn't build it that way.
They didn't build it to scale. That's the honest problem with a lot of things in League. And Dota 2 came afterwards and knew that they wanted that kind of functionality, so they built the game to make it. And Blizzard's been doing replays in all of their games since StarCraft. So it's kind of easy for them to incorporate something like that.
Yeah, and Awesonauts came out way after League too, so. And they actually just barely put the replay system in like a couple months ago. Okay, we've been running kind of long, so I got one last thing I wanted to talk with you guys about, and then we will shuffle off our respective directions. There is a new champion reveal that came out a little while ago for the next champion that's coming to League. Actually, real quick, what did you guys think of the last champion? Kindred. Have you played her at all? Her, him, it, whatever it is?
I played them once, and it was ARAM. I was awful, but conceptually seems like a really fun character if you figure out how to make them work.
That was my thought looking at it. I haven't actually played her yet.
She seems fairly complex, so I've stayed away from her.
You have granted, you're spamming abilities with a lot of characters, but you have to keep all three of her abilities going at once to actually, do your job. And then her ult is another one of those where, 90% of the time you're probably going to use it wrong and end up, saving their ADC or something. And then that
kind of like a Trist ult.
Yeah, and then that one time you're gonna look like a hero. You'd be like, "Yep, I'm Faker."
Tough did you use Kindred at all?
I have not used it. I've played alongside it, and that ult is so hard to use properly. I've seen so many Kindred players use an ult that should have saved somebody else on the wrong person, and everybody
that goes
dies.
the same for Tom Kench and...
Well, Tom Kench is easier to get right. Oh, somebody on my team is getting jacked. Let me just pick him up and walk away. I hate Tom Kench with a passion because It's like the Tarek problem. It's so easy. You don't have to think.
I've only used him a few times. I was actually trying to use him more as a top laner, just because he has that tankiness and whatnot. But seeing like the pros use him in Worlds, yeah, I can see where he could be over dominating.
Bench
for
the
sure.
Kinch.
Okay, so the new champion that's coming out. I have no idea how to pronounce this name. It's like Ileoe or something like that.
Yeah, Ileoy, I think, is
No, it's Ilaoi.
Ilawi.
Ilawi?
Yeah, it's. I can.
I
Just
like that a lot more.
Yeah, that
It's
sounds
based
better.
on. I mean, the overall lore has got a very, I'd say, a Polynesian approach to it.
The tattoos
Yeah, I
were
can see
kind of
that.
a big nod to that.
And so she is supposed to be related to the Kraken in some shape or form.
She doesn't have a skin that shouts, "Release the Kraken."
Yeah, that's something that they need to get in there. So, she's got an interesting kit, and it's one of those things that they've kind of incorporated just like a lot of different shit you got to think about, particularly with the ghost tendrils and the ult, because of the tendrils. Well, part of the time they only spawn near walls, so you kind of have to be like in a lane or in between. It's not going to work so well in the river, is what I'm getting at. Where there's walls that are too far away from where the action's happening, and it doesn't seem that you can control, where they spawn or how they only spawn periodically, so it's not something that you can just count on at all times. In the case of her ult, she jumps and slams into the ground in a particular area, and they pop up dependent on how many champions are hit. So in that case, team fight aspect, that's going to be better because you're going to jump in the middle of all of them. They're going to pop up, and then you can utilize their abilities. But during normal laning, it seems like she might be kind of stuck near where her tentacles are. That's kind of like the Heimerdinger problem of like your turrets are back here, but you're up farther, and you need to fall back to them, kind of thing. What do you guys think about the new champion? You think she looks cool?
I'd say I like the way that they're approaching it, and as you said, that's the specific weakness. If she's not near walls, if she's not in her spot that's already thrown down a bunch of tentacles, she's not that good. But at the same time, like, she's an anti-dive. Good luck diving us prepared Ilaoi. Just good luck, because she's going to nuke you. Like 1v2 kills will be easy if you haven't somehow avoided the tentacles. The tentacles don't even have a health bar; they just have them. So you can't exactly avoid them if they're already there.
She's kind of the top lane version of Azir. Sort of you have a setup, and if you can channel that, whereas, if Azir loses his dudes or they end up somewhere else, it's kind of like, well, good luck, chicken.
Yeah, I can't play Azir to save my life, so
nor
this
can
one might not be a good champion for me, per se. But she does look interesting.
I think it'll be interesting to see how she plays with the Rift Herald and the Dragon, because getting all those tentacles into the pit could be pretty interesting.
Yeah, that's
goodness.
true.
Death
True.
ball.
Yeah.
Just try smiting that dragon away from my. Go for it.
Yeah, she'll be the savior, the clutch Baron Steel savior, because you can just jump in with her ult, get the steal, and then utilize the tentacles in a defensive manner. We'll have to see when she comes out, like how well she performs, because Riot has a long track record of champions being way too overly powerful when they first come out and then getting nerfed.
Well, one of her abilities, I can't remember if it's her E or W, the one that rips their soul out, and then you can beat on that for a little while. That looked really nasty. Because it's, you're low health, you're trying to run? About that.
I'm just going to skill shot you and take away the rest of your life. It's all good. Oh, by the way, while you're running away, you're only going to get slower.
Yeah.
It's like ultimate chase.
She doesn't even have to chase you. She hits you with that skill shot. It's like, okay, bye, see you later. Oh, wait.
Sure, she doesn't have to hit you, but she can leave that damage behind while the rest of the team can nuke, and she can just keep walking, and then you hit the edge of the range and slow down massively, and then she just finishes you off, what little's left of it.
That's true.
Or someone else does that.
Good luck convincing your ADC to stand back there with the damage, or with the soul while you run off to kill him.
Yeah, so she definitely looks like an interesting new take I like the fact that they've gotten a little more creative, let's say, with their champions that they've created in the last, I don't know, year or so. Because it seemed like a lot of them are based on like the every third hit something happens, or they have a built-in dash, or it's always like the same similar mechanics over and over again. She seems to break the mold completely.
What about Echo? It was a built-in dash, and CC, and a stun, and a knockup, and Echo's like a walking hit list of all the things that have been in all the champions recently.
He was like the last hurrah for that style, apparently. Hopefully.
I hope. Because that's so... I'm sure it's fun to play, but it's really annoying to face.
Echo is a lot of fun to play. He's just really hard to hit his stun.
Oh, I love avoiding W. It is adorable when Convergence hits nothing. It's like, you suck at prediction.
But when you do get one off, and then you can do some burst damage and then either get out with your ult and heal, or just finish everyone off, he's pretty overpowered. Okay, so any final thoughts on any of this, guys?
I'm looking forward to it. I think it's going to be a good season.
I didn't play any of Season 5. It just wasn't interesting to me. I didn't like the way it was playing, so the most I did was watch LCS matches and the World Championships. Now I want to play League again. That should say everything.
Yeah, I basically took off the tail end of last season, so it was pretty much just watching, like you said, watching LCS and stuff. But I am definitely ready to get back into it too.
I mean, I'm excited. I do mostly ARAM, but I'm actually really looking forward to this new team builder, and I want to actually get some time on Summoner's Rift. So
yeah, definitely, we'll have to get together, and I have two of you already. I'm going to get your info, Tough Love, because I don't have you on League.
But I gotta say, I'm having nightmares about Phantom Dancer Darius.
No. Phantom Dancer Vayne is now just worse.
Oh, God.
Vayne has always been hard to deal with.
And she's not going to chase you harder.
Chase you harder, and you do less damage. Have fun with that.
Alright, guys. Well, I would like to thank all of you for joining me and going over all of this crap that half of the listeners probably won't even know what we were talking about. But it was still fun.
Not everything can appeal to everyone.
Glad to be here.
It was a lot of fun.
All right. Well, hopefully maybe we can all get together on the Rift sometime and kick some ass.
Well, I'll try and support, right?
Support or die, bro. That's the only way to do it.
Well, I don't know. I can play other roles, so I'm not opposed to taking top or being ADC or whatever. So,
dude, we're supposed to fight over support.
Yeah, all four of us.
I was being the nice one.
No,
you guys have it.
You're just supposed to fight over support by offering to take the other roles so somebody else can play support.
Right.
Wait, he was doing it right. Never mind.
I was doing it right. That does it for this week's edition of Couch Potatoes. We hope you enjoyed it, and we hope that you'll continue to join us. Couch Potatoes can be found on Twitter at Couch Potatoes, and on Anook at anook.com/blog/couch-potatoes. Music credits, other places you can find us, and pertinent links discussed on the show can be found in the show notes. Thanks for listening. We're going to get back to gaming now, so we'll see you next week.